to Congressman Schock from Illinois.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Likewise, happy birthday on your special day. And just noticing your election to office in 1983, and someone who's 28 years old in Congress, that's a lifetime. So thank you for your service to this Congress and your country. Happy birthday. Mr. Borofsky, I'm specifically interested in the change in purpose that has occurred under the new administration with the use of TARP funds, and how that might change your role or add additional responsibilities, or how your responsibility as the Special Inspector General for TARP interfaces with our federal government's decision to bail out the automakers. Could you speak to that?
Sure. I mean, I think that in the near term, we're addressing that through our audit function. We've announced an audit of corporate governance, which of course oversees the fact that we do have a controlling interest in General Motors now, controlling equity interest, and minority interest in Chrysler Financial. My team is going to be heading out to Detroit next week, some of my audit team, to start that process. We're also going to be sending representatives of our investigative division as well to make the necessary contacts, make sure that the word is out, including word about our hotline. If anyone within these companies knows of any misrepresentations, there's a whole bunch of reporting that's required as a condition of the federal funds. So we're going to keep a very close eye and dedicate the necessary resources to fulfill our oversight role.
So you feel you're being given the latitude you need in terms of allowing your personnel into GM and Chrysler to oversee the use of those TARP funds?
I'll let you know next week, but I don't anticipate that we're going to have a problem.
Okay. The next question is your opinion. You know, when this bill was sold to Congress last fall, it was sold on it was predicated on the idea that this money, in the words of former Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson, would be, if not all paid back, most of it, and there was a slim likelihood that we might actually make money on the TARP money for the taxpayers. Do you believe that the majority of this money will be paid back?
I think if you look at the way the program has evolved, I think it's extremely unlikely that we're going to get $700 billion back. The mortgage modification program alone is $50 billion. There's no anticipation that any of that money will come back. That money is being directly given to mortgage servicers to help convince them to lower mortgage payments and payments that they'll make on behalf of homeowners. So I think it's very unlikely that TARP will turn a profit significant enough on other activities to generate a profit to cover that $50 billion. In addition, on some of the other programs, as Ranking Member noted, the money has been written off from Chrysler. Still have to see what happens with our equity interests in those companies. So it's certainly possible that more may be retained or earned back over time that maybe even we suspect right now. But I think the idea of getting a dollar-for-dollar return would be extremely unlikely.
And then specifically about your conversation, your statements earlier about asking basically Treasury to detail or basically to collect information from TARP recipients and also the use of their taxpayer funds from those TARP recipients. In your view, why is it, I mean, Treasury kind of gives this response that, well, that would be meaningless and really is not necessary. What's your view of that?
Well, first of all, if it were meaningless, I don't understand why Treasury does this with respect to Bank of America, Citigroup, and AIG. Are they including, recently with AIG, are they including conditions in their contracts that they believe are meaningless? I certainly hope not. My view is that sure, money is fungible, and that is a true concept, but just to use a simple example from my own life, I get direct deposit of my federal paycheck, and while normally I couldn't tell you whether if I buy some groceries, whether it's from one week or a different week, because money is fungible, all goes into my checking account. A couple of years ago, when I won the John Marshall Award for my work on the Revco case, there's a small cash component. and I knew that was going to be direct deposited into my checking account. And before I got that check, I knew what I was going to do with that money. I was going to pay off a piece of my student loan. So when I got it, I could, and sure enough, the money came into my account and then went out to pay off the student loan. So sure, money is fungible, but I could tell you with a great deal of certainty what I did with that bonus money, that extra money that came in. And what we see is that financial institutions have been able to do the exact same thing. The TARP was an extraordinary amount of money and an extraordinary investment. And banks can tell what they did with that money. Banks, they're responsible companies. They're budgeting for the fact they're increasing the capital by these amounts. And this is all money that can be verified and tested. So much of Treasury's compliance system is based on similar types of self-reporting, where financial institutions report their compliance, and then Treasury comes back and hopefully one day will test through its compliance function. This is no different. If a bank says, I used the money to acquire another financial institution, which I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise because I wouldn't have had enough money, that's certainly a verifiable fact. If they go buy agency mortgage-backed securities and say this is what we did with the money, we can look at what their total volume of securities were before the TARP money and afterwards and test that money. So we do believe that this is an important part of transparency. It's important for the members of Congress, for the American people, and it's important for Treasury as well to know what's going on with the taxpayer funds.
I agree. Thank you very much for your testimony, and I hope you'll continue to press on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.